Hello, this is Christian Gonzalez with the Brew Podcast. I am here with one of my favorite people, Jillian. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that you know, it was funny how it all came together because me starting this out, I'm just, if anyone wants to be guest on my podcast, and I know the normal thing to do is to always ask people, if they want to come on. But I was so grateful that you were like, you can let me know, and and then I reached out to you, and then I'm just like, oh, can you come and be the guest for November? So thank you so much for for being here because
Well,
I
thank you, Christian, for having me.
appreciate it. Yes. So we will be laughing and giggling throughout the whole thing because that's just where we are right now. So that's perfectly fine. So it's just, with everything, especially when I do the podcast, and this is my first time having a, a guest on and a person on, is that I always just like to say that it's just very chill, it's very laid back, it's just a conversation. Um, there's nothing that I would ask to make you feel uncomfortable. There's nothing that you don't have to answer. You can talk about whatever. And I think that that's why I like taking that route, because sometimes you don't want to put people in a weird position. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable about anything. You don't want to just do anything like that. So just know that it's always coming from a place of just whatever you want to talk about. Now, a lot of the people that you and I have worked with in our prior place where we used to work have said nothing but nice things about you.
Oh, well, that
they
is very
think
kind of
they
them.
think you are the sweetest. You are compassionate. You're so easy to talk to. You have such a great personality, and the list goes on. So my question is, how do we become a Jillian?
Oh
How do
my
we become a
God.
Jillian? Well, how can we become a Jillian, and what inspires you in that sort of way to be that way? You're just very like smiley, you're very just outgoing. Like, was there anything growing up that you saw that you're like, nah, I don't want to be that way, this is how I am? Or it's just that you were always that way? How can we become a Jillian?
I think I was always this way. Like
Mm-hmm.
my mom, for example, everywhere we go, she will make friends with whomever is
Really?
there. Like we went to Hawaii last October, and in the airport, she like made like five friends sitting next to us.
Really?
And she's actually far more outgoing than I, believe it or
Really?
not. Yeah, but I've just always been this way. Plus, I waitressed for a really long time,
Okay, so
and you
that
kind of
helps.
have to have. I mean, if you want to make money, you kind of have to have the personality
Right,
that will,
exactly.
yeah, that's talkative and happy, and But I think I've always been this way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. And so, what advice do you give for people that, I know you say you've always been that way, but like, what do you think? What do you think if people, how can we get there? What do
Um,
you feel? How can we get there with being more compassionate, open? Like, what do you think is the key to that?
I think I always just put myself in the other person's shoes
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what kind of day is that person having? Or
Mm-hmm.
will my smile or a kind word make their day better?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the place I come from. But believe it or not, Christian, I actually have really bad social anxiety at times.
Really?
People would never guess this about me.
I get.
But I like, if I have to go to a family event and there's going to be a lot of people, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm like kind of not trapped, but
Yeah.
in a place where maybe a lot of people will be talking to me at once, I actually get anxiety about it.
Yeah.
And people are like, no way, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it like puts me in a place where I'm like, like a panic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people are like, no, we see you out in public, you talk to everybody. And I'm like, yeah, it's different though. Like
Yes.
even family, my own family,
Yep.
like, because my
Yep.
dad's the youngest of seven. And so when we go to his side of the family's events, it's just like, like sheer panic sets in. Or like it's just, I don't know, it's strange.
Right.
But at the same time, I can walk up to a table of strangers and wait on them and
Right.
be happy. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. It's odd.
It's so amazing because I actually talked about that when I had my first, that I did like my first intro video, and I was talking because I wanted to do an intro video of this just to kind of so people can get to know me, um and one of the things I talked about was that I said, like when I was in the job that we had, the place that we worked at, I usually would have to speak to at least 30 to 50 people,
Yeah.
and have an orientation and,
Mm-hmm.
do a whole slideshow and things like that. And, some of the volunteers would come up to me and say, how do you, how do you do that so well? And, and then I would tell them, I'd be like, oh, well, as a kid, I was very antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me that I'm going to be in a public speaking setting, I would tell you you're crazy. I would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just how it was,
Yeah.
and being the last, with my siblings and being the last one born, they were already grown, they were already making their lives. So I was kind of semi by myself. I didn't really, have, uh, someone to talk to there other than my parents,
Yeah.
So, and then I had friends, but, my friends were the same way too. They were kind of semi antisocial. So then, then it's like, then I just was in the same circle like
Mm-hmm.
them. So I would tell them, this story and tell them, oh no, I was never like that. And they'd be like, I would never notice that
Yeah.
you would even have an, be antisocial as a
Yeah.
kid, or because I would always think you were always social as a kid. And I was like, no, like it was it was an experience that, I think like when I got older and I had my first job, I worked at a hotel in Ocean City, and I had to force myself
Yeah.
because the job that I did there, I had to interact with people
Mm-hmm.
constantly. I had to be around people. I had to be around groups because they had a banquet center. So I had to be up there. I had to be, and, and that helped me.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I learned, taught myself just different ways to help myself with it. But, for me to even be now on a microphone recording myself, or, video, whatever the case may be, is a huge, deal,
Yeah.
because, you always just, although I don't consider myself antisocial now. Like now I'm obviously more social, but when I think about that time, I think I would never think of myself doing anything with public speaking or
Yeah.
anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Public speaking, the thought of it gives me
yeah,
anxiety. Yeah.
yeah, it really does, because it's just like it's a scary thing, because, because even when I did it, like even when I did it at that time, I was like, what are they? Do they hear my voice? Are they judging me?
Mm-hmm.
Do they feel like I sound a certain way, or am I not sounding like this, or, what's going? Like those are all the things that really went through my mind,
Yeah,
and
like a
then
million things will
a
pop through your mind
a
at the
million
same
things,
time.
yeah, a million things went
Mm-hmm.
in my head. It went through my mind, um and it was always just that way, but I think that, and this is one of the reasons why, I created this podcast, because it was one of those things where oftentimes, uh, we know, where people, we know their outcome as far as like what they've been through in life. We know where they are now, but oftentimes we don't know how they got there,
Mm-hmm.
what that journey
Yeah.
was like to get there, right? So an example of that is me talking about, being antisocial. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I talked about, well, this is how it was when I was a kid. And then I finally got to this point where, and when people listen to that, they relate to it,
Yeah,
because it's like a
absolutely.
relatable story.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, that people, want to hear, and they see where you are now as a person, and
Yeah.
how you navigate life now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I just, so that's why my question is, how can we be a Jillian? Because that's what it is. Like, I think that, and we need more listeners, so I feel like you are a listener. Like you like to listen to people too,
Yeah, I love it.
and you like to listen to what they're saying in their story,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so that's how we become a Jillian, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's great. So shifting gears, so where were you like born? Where were you raised? What was that like?
I was born in Cape May County, and
Oh, nice.
and I was raised in Sea Isle,
Okay.
mainly. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, And then when I was a teenager, I moved offshore for a little while and then back onto the island. I've been offshore and back on the island in Sea Isle, but
Right.
mainly Sea Isles where I was raised and where I grew up.
Nice. And what was that atmosphere like? Like what
Amazing.
was that like?
I mean, it's like just being so blessed. I mean, you get to grow up at the beach. I mean, people pay thousands and thousands of
Seriously.
dollars to spend a week at the
Seriously.
beach in the summer, and I got to grow up there, and it's just amazing. Like I love it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah, so like my so we so our family, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and we lived there for obviously many years. I grew up there, and then we decided to move from there because where I lived, it was a very bad neighborhood. It was just really bad.
Yeah.
And because there was something that happened with my brother that then scared my mom to death, and then
Yeah.
she was like, "We got to get out of here." So then when we moved there, talk about culture shock. We went from there to Ocean City, New Jersey.
I lived there for kindergarten.
Let me tell you that
Wow.
that experience going from that
Yeah.
to that
Mm-hmm.
was wild
Yeah. What a shift.
because I think what people don't understand is that when you are constantly as a family constantly on high anxiety,
Yeah.
always worried about something's going to happen, living in that environment constantly, and then going to school and then like worrying about things happen at school and then like
Mm-hmm.
you come home and then it's just a real when you're a family that or you, speaking like if you're a mother or father that are raising kids, young
Mm-hmm.
kids in that type of environment and you're constantly thinking about that all the time,
Yeah.
you have to decide what you're going to do
Mm-hmm.
because it's a scary situation. So,
Yeah.
and we had like I had a sibling that lived in that area in Ocean City at that time. So he was constantly trying to, tell my parents, hey, come down here and
Yeah.
whatnot. And when we got there, just picture, us and we're all of us are high anxiety. We have these New York accents. We have this attitude.
Mm-hmm.
We come in this, neighborhood and we're like, where the hell are we? You know what I mean? But and that in itself was a culture shock. But one of the things that and speaking because you're saying that you were raised in the shore and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
what I found uh, a level of freedom was the first time that I actually had a bike and I took my bike and I rode my bike down a street
Yeah.
without feeling a level of I'm gonna get shot, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, or I'm gonna get mugged or anything like
Yeah.
that. And and where we lived like in a house and then like the boardwalk was just right up.
Yeah.
So we were only like 4 houses away from the boardwalk.
Nice.
So we just and then what I used to do is that I used to when you would go up, there would be this door that be open and it's the arcade. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was Jilly's, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I would go in the
Mm-hmm.
back of the arcade because they always had the back door open. I'd go through the back door, come through, and I'd put quarters and I'd play games in different arcades. It was like it was a dream,
Yeah.
But for me, it was like the world because I was coming from what I was coming from
Mm-hmm.
to having that level of freedom.
Yeah.
So it always holds a special place in my heart because of that. And you're so right. When you live there, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're like it's like you're always like on vacation
Yeah.
and you don't even know it. And then
Yes.
when everyone leaves
Mm-hmm.
for the winter time,
Mm-hmm.
then you're like it's like almost like you
Yeah.
have the town to yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I
September
mean?
is my favorite month because things are
Yes.
still open, but the
Uh-huh.
shoots are gone.
Yep, exactly, exactly, exactly. And that's how that experience was
Mm-hmm.
was with me because it was interesting. It was
Yeah.
interesting. It was nice. I had a great time, and then from there we moved over to Summers Point, New Jersey, which
Okay.
was right
Yeah.
over
Right
the
over the
bridge.
bridge.
And my dad still lives there, still lives in
Oh,
an
okay.
apartment.
Nice.
Actually, we visited him last week I think it was, and and so when I'm down there and I visit my dad, we drive around and I look at all just the places, buildings that used to be there are no
Yeah.
longer there, and they've rebuilt and all that stuff. And it's a second home to me in that sense because
Yeah.
I have it's just a really nice experience. So I'm sure with you, you probably feel that way too, you know,
Yes, I
just
love
in a
it.
different way.
Yeah, I
That's
love
nice.
it. I just love to wiggle my toes in the sand. It's
Yeah,
like such a sense of peace that comes
exactly.
over me.
It does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Like, so like when I go down to the beach, well, when I, because I don't do it as often as I used to, but when I would go, I just love doing that too. Like I like putting my feet in the
Yes.
sand. I
Yeah.
love, then I like going to, put it like if I'm in the water, well, I can't swim, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go in the
Yeah.
in the ocean, but like I'll put my ankles in, or I'll
Yeah.
put up to my kneecaps,
Mhm.
and just kind of just stand there, and it feels so nice. It's
It
it's like
does.
it's like almost like a grounding
Yeah.
type of ritual. I don't know.
Yes,
I
it
know
is.
that sounds
And
weird,
fresh
but
salt air is amazing for you.
it is.
It is.
It is. It's just a different type of you know vibe
It
that I love. So yeah,
is.
so that's great.
Mhm.
So now tell me about like your pack at home, your dogs, because I know you have. So I know you have
I have four
four four
labs,
labs.
and then my boyfriend has a husky, and
Boyfriend
so
has a
we have
husky.
a pack of five, and then I guess us makes seven.
So I know that like when you came in here, we spoke about it a little bit, and so I just wanted to kind of put it on here. Like, what is that like? What is that experience like having a pack like that, and
Busy.
what kind of routine do you have, and what is it? What is that like?
So they just have boundaries and rules and structure and
Uh-huh.
routine. Routine is very helpful. But
Yes.
it does feel like a doggy daycare every day that I run. That's what it feels like. But
Yeah.
it's so, I mean, who needs TV? You
Who
can
needs
just watch
TV?
the dogs play.
That's it.
It's very entertaining. They're funny.
Yeah.
Watching all their little personalities and behaviors interact with each
Hmm.
other is just fun.
Do you feel that will you ever get more dogs?
No. His face. No.
I knew you would say no. That's
Yeah.
why I was that. I knew the answer,
Yes,
but I
you
just
knew
I
the
just wanted
answer.
you to say, would you get more?
Yeah, no, no.
I feel it's wild because I feel the same way about my little as you met them. They're
Yes.
they're all over here, and I feel the same way because I have three cats and a dog, and they're a small dog, and we live in a 1 bedroom apartment, and for me, I'm just at this point where I was like, I mean, I'll be 42 next month, and I'll be like, okay, well, two of them are 6, one is 11, the other one, the dog is 9. I'm like, do I see myself in my mid 60s scooping up litter? You know, that's how I look at it.
Yes, yeah, I get
And
it.
it has nothing to do with them that I don't
Mhm.
love them. I
Yeah,
don't
of
love it.
course
Has
not.
nothing to do with that. And I said, do I see myself in my mid 60s, walking a dog in the hot weather, walking a
Mhm.
dog in the freezing
Yeah.
weather, snow, all that stuff? Do I see myself,
Mhm.
doing that? And the answer is usually no.
Yeah.
Because I, it's funny because like especially being part of rescue and advocacy and
Yeah.
things like that, like everyone's always like, well, as soon as one passes away, we're going to get another one. And I find that incredible. I think that that's beautiful, but for me and the way my health is and
Mhm.
things like that, I'm like, could I be doing that in my mid 60s,
Yeah.
my mid 50s?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because, and then, it's the aspect of, the anxiety of if one of them gets sick,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Really sick. Like,
Yeah.
what happens then? You just, it becomes a financial thing. And rescue's beautiful, but it's
Mhm.
one of those things where I don't think some people don't look behind that and they
Yeah.
assess it to determine like, okay, well, it's fine when you're in your 20s and 30s, but as you start to age and it gets
Mhm.
more harder, and then it can become a financial constraint. God
Yeah.
forbid something happens to one of them. Like Timmy here, like he has chronic bronchitis
Mhm.
and it's lifelong.
Yeah.
So it took about a year to get him on a regimen where he's managed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's like it went away,
Yeah,
but like
no.
he's on one, two, three, three different types of medications
Yeah.
together that work to get him to a point where he can just breathe normal.
Yeah.
Now, as you heard earlier, like he'll cough and things
Mhm.
like that because that's part of the disease, you
Yeah.
know. But he's managed on it. But
Mhm.
like, I'm constant anxiety. Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, when is it gonna when it's managed now, but
Yeah.
it's a progressive disease that's
Yeah.
going to keep getting worse as
Yeah.
he ages. When is that point going to come? And so
Yeah.
my anxiety is like through that. Then the other one around there, she was, just in her, and I think about all of that. I
Yeah.
think about like, what is that like? So, you know with them I worry about, let alone that when you have all the dogs,
Yeah.
like what you must be thinking, like probably. And it's probably something, like I have anxiety, so it's probably something that I think of and maybe
Mhm.
nobody else thinks of. But I'm like, I can't even imagine, like, what if that happened to you? Like,
Yeah.
what would that experience be like?
Well, you touched on the medical thing, but our thing is that like you can't really go away unless you
Yeah,
want to pay a gazillion dollars to board all your dogs, which is like
I
ridiculous.
know.
So it's kind of like we're imprisoned by our animals.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah,
so
exactly. Exactly.
it's yeah, that aspect of it as
Yep.
well is like, oh well, maybe we can go on a vacation
Yep.
in 12 years when the
Well, can you
dogs.
imagine? Can you imagine? So, like, when he got officially diagnosed last year in September with it, before that time, he was really bad. Like, it was like to the point where he just wouldn't stop coughing and
Yeah.
hacking, and took him to a cardiologist, did all that stuff. And I was just so, and during that time period, I was so anxiety ridden
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I was like getting sick
Yeah.
because I was worried about him. And so when he would get into those coughing fits and those, coughing and hacking fits, I would immediately throw him on top of my chest and, pet him and
Mm-hmm.
to try to calm him down. And it worked.
Yeah.
But, then he had the wheezing and the crackling in his chest and everything. And during that time period when we were trying to figure that out, Rob was like, "Oh, maybe we should go to the Poconos." I was like, "Listen, I'm not going on any trip,
Yeah.
not going anywhere." I said, because I can almost guarantee you that leave this state, and then I'm gonna be like, "Is he okay?" Now,
Yeah.
granted, we have cameras inside the house because
Yeah.
it watches them when we're away, but that's different. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm like, what if it? And we could, I mean, he spoke about a few people that we know who have like cats that have asthma and all that stuff, that they understand it, that they would take care of him.
Yeah.
But I just could not. And even it was during that time we were invited to a wedding, and I had to tell her, unfortunately, I can't come to wedding because that wedding was about 45 minutes away from
Yeah.
here. And I said to myself, I know that if I get there, I'm going to be worried about, and if I
Yeah.
see on the camera that he's hacking and coughing constantly, I'm going to have to just leave
Yeah.
and come here, and I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
So even a wedding, I had to cancel, and we didn't go to that
Yeah.
wedding. But speaking of going away, like that's exactly how it is for me. And and although we do, between like his family, and we do have a few people and all that stuff that we can say, hey, can you take care of them or stop by? But it's the idea that it's like no one can give them care like I can.
Yeah. Oh yes.
It's terrible. It's terrible because
Yeah.
no one can. And then I'm always like thinking like, oh well, like what if something happens to them, and then
Yeah.
I'm over there, then so now that he's managed
Yeah.
more and now he's better, I'm not anxiety ridden like that. But it's hard. Like, you
Yeah.
can't plan anything. You can't really go
Yeah.
anywhere, like far for like a whole week or anything. Like,
Yeah. Definitely
if him
not.
and I ever decide to do that, we'll do like maybe like maybe like 2 days or something
Yeah.
like that. But other than that, we can't go anywhere for a week. We
Yeah.
can't do anything. It's just like it just would I just would be worried all the time.
Yeah. Well, you'd be worried, and I just don't have anybody that wants 5 large dogs to watch.
Yeah, you're like no one's pet
Yeah,
sitting my
nobody,
dog.
yeah,
So
nobody's pet sitting for us. But if you got some contacts, Christian, I'd really
yeah.
like some.
Oh yeah, because it's just, and it's hard. I mean, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it's so much more harder for you because you have that many dogs. So
Yeah.
it's just it's difficult. I don't know.
It's a
Like
lot.
I get it. But you know what? We speak like this, and we describe everything, but they're the love
Yeah, they
they're the
are.
true love of our lives,
Hmm.
because we want them in our lives, and
Hmm.
we care about them, we love them, and they do so much for us, and and that's something that you can't mimic in a person.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
just so different, with cats and dogs, that it's just a different experience.
It
I don't know
is.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I
Um
think all pet owners feel the same thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's important.
Mhm.
Now, how did you become an animal lover? Like, what was it that, was it something in your upbringing that you always had cats, dogs, and then, or was there any time period that you?
So when I was growing up, we had cats and dogs come, in our home, in our family. But I didn't become a huge into it until I was actually in prison in a dog training
Mm-hmm.
program, and that is when I learned how to train dogs to be bomb sniffing dogs. Actually,
Oh,
scent detection. Yeah, and
wow.
so that is when I became far more passionate than it just being like a this is my
Correct.
pet thing.
Correct.
It became like a oh, they are capable of so many amazing things.
Yeah.
And so that it just became a passion. I loved it, especially
Wow.
scent work.
Right,
Scent
scent
work,
work, yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I love agility stuff and all that because
Right.
that's like the fun stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
scent work is really fun as well. Yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, because so I know that about you,
Hmm.
and I know that that's a conversation that has been brought up before,
Yeah,
and and that experience, when I think about that, I think of just how amazing that experience was, that you had the ability to do that with
yeah.
dogs in prison,
It was
and be
amazing.
able to do that,
Yeah,
because that in itself, I wish more places did that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it makes such a huge difference for
Oh,
the animals. And then it also puts, the dog in an advantage,
hmm,
that, they get out of there trained, and they can go to whatever facility or any place
yeah.
that needs them. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. I remember when I first joined the program, I was still a trainee, and this girl that was a senior raiser had just gotten a new puppy. And she walked past me and she goes, Jill, look at this baby. She goes, society thinks that we are the scum of the earth and we are being entrusted with this little baby to train to go work for the government. She said, the irony in that is pretty great. I said, I know.
Yep.
And it's amazing. It was really an incredible program. It's
And I've
super
seen,
awesome.
so I've known about those programs,
Hmm.
and I was very, how do you say that word, not interested, but like invested in that,
Hmm.
because I was always just curious on how they even start a program like that in
Yeah.
a prison, and
Hmm.
who gets to decide who gets to decide there, who can do it,
Hmm.
who applies for the program and all that stuff. So is it certain people that out of all the population,
Yeah.
certain people that are allowed to do it, and certain people
Yes.
that are not?
So you have to have a clean institutional record,
Okay.
and you also have to uh, fit the crime criteria. As
Hmm.
far as like certain crimes will make it so that you've committed will make it to exempt from being in the
Right.
program.
Right.
So, like uh, if you've ever had a crime on a cop or anything with
Right.
children,
Right.
you can't be in the program
No.
then because they look at it as this puppy is going to one day become a cop. And it's also like something that you have to
Seriously.
raise as a
Yeah.
child,
Exactly.
basically. So therefore, you
Exactly.
can't be in the program if you
Exactly.
have that. And then,
Right.
like I said, you also have to have a clean institutional record. You can't go in there causing trouble all the time and
Right.
then expect to
And then
be
expecting,
get this privilege.
expecting that.
Yeah,
Right.
because
Exactly.
it is a privilege.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's our
It's
cat. You can see on the video, that's our cat going through the mic. Um, yeah, yeah, because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
yeah,
because why would you want to? Why would they put you in that position to
yeah,
begin with, when
yeah,
it's like you're almost, what's the term, like you're almost giving an opportunity for something that their crime was
yeah,
really bad, that then all of a sudden now you want them to to be doing this. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally
Yeah.
understand that. Now speaking of that and that experience, what so in general,
Yes.
just in general experience of prison, and
Hmm.
just speaking on that by itself, not
Yeah.
anything else,
Yes.
what was that like? What was that experience like?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the person.
Right.
Listen, some people go into prison
Mm-hmm.
and they just continue to uh, struggle
Mm-hmm.
in life. I'll put it
Right.
that way. They'll
Right.
struggle in life. Or some people take it as an opportunity, like I tried and did,
Right.
and took it as, okay, I was going down the wrong path in life. Obviously, I
Mm-hmm.
ended up
Mm-hmm.
here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's time to reflect and change and do everything I can to be the best version of me. I really think that that's the way you show remorse. You
Yeah.
don't show remorse by laying in bed and crying about your crime. You show remorse by doing everything possible to become the best version of you so you never hurt anybody ever again.
That's
That's
nice.
remorse for me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. And that's why, I speak about, that's why I ask about, that's why I ask you about the experience itself, because
Hmm.
everything else is everything else.
Yeah.
But the experience itself, because, I don't think many people would know
Yeah.
about that experience, but you lived it,
I did.
so it's like one of those things that what do you take away from it? What do you learn from it?
Hmm.
Because I had a sibling that was in prison,
Hmm.
and that was, now obviously I wasn't in there, they were,
Yeah.
but but the experience from my point of view
Mhm.
was hard,
Yeah.
because the my mom would constantly go and visit, and to see her standing in a line and trying to visit her son, and
Mhm.
it was, and me experiencing that as a young kid, was hard, because my mom was always crying all the time, and so I only experienced what that was like, having someone in there, and
Mhm.
that did what that did to how my mom felt about it, and how my dad felt about it, and so that's why I like to ask that question,
Mhm.
because the experience is different for everyone,
Yeah.
and but in for my siblings case, they weren't always the best behaved in there, you know what I
No.
mean? So for you, I'm glad to hear that you took that opportunity, as someone, you're in there, you're just trying to take the opportunity,
Mhm.
you like, and I hate using the word opportunity, but you know what I mean, like, you knew you were in a spot where you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I have to do something about it
Yeah.
now.
I mean, I was given an opportunity to change.
Okay.
And so, like, in there, I did the drug program.
That's
I did
nice.
all the counseling they would possibly give me.
That's good.
I took college classes.
Very
I got to
good.
be in the puppy program. So, I mean, it was an opportunity
That's
in
good.
some ways for me
That's
to
good.
change. And I don't really think the punishment is the actual place. I
Right.
don't think it's prison. I think the punishment is being ripped from all the people that you love.
Hmm.
That's the punishment. And then afterwards, the repercussions of that,
Yeah.
like what you've lost from your
Yep.
time
That's
away.
right.
So
That's right.
I was away for a little over 7.5 years.
Oh my God.
So
That's a lot of time.
it is a decent amount of time. But then again, I'm in there with people that have life. So it's,
Yeah.
it's just, it's what you do with your time.
That's it.
And I think that it was an opportunity for
Yeah,
me.
and that's good, because
Yeah.
that I hate saying that's good, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, you had an opportunity, and you did what you had to do,
Mhm.
and here you are today.
Here I am with
You know what
you,
I mean? Here
Christian.
you are with me. I mean, and that's to me, that means a lot. And then, so did you make friends in there? Did you become like besties with anyone? Were you close, or was it
Yes.
just that type of environment where you're like, you can't get close to nobody, you can't trust anyone, that sort of
Well,
thing?
so I give everybody my trust until they give me a reason to take it
Same,
away.
same.
Yes, which is sometimes the downfall and
Hmm.
sometimes
Oh, big time, big time.
but so yes, you of course be in that length of time, you of course become very close with people.
Right.
Yeah, I had people in there that I called best friend or whatever, but then you would have people that you got really close to, and then you would find out that they were not your friend after all. Um, but
Is this like an Orange is the New Black scenario, like
I
thing? You know what I mean? I'm
yeah,
just
I
kidding.
mean, well, sometimes, but I try to keep my circle as small as possible. One of my goals
Right.
um, was to not be close with too many people because it's I'm there to work on me and
Right.
not like be social butterfly.
Right. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
really
And that, and obviously, like, I wouldn't know, but I would just assume in that sort of scenario, you also have to keep your head on a swivel too, because you're in an environment with other people that
Yeah.
you don't really know them,
Oh yes, you
and
don't.
so it's scary to kind of be like, you don't want to be too trusting with a lot of people because you don't know what their experience is going to
Yeah,
be like, and what I mean, like,
yeah,
you don't know how they are as people,
yeah.
and that's something. Now, the day that you came out, tell
Yes.
me about that, because you had been that long, and I want to know, like, what was that feeling, what was that like, what was the first thing you did when you came out, like, what was that like, because I'm just.
Well, so my last 13 months, I was actually in a halfway house in
Okay.
Camden.
Okay.
So it's like a process of trying to slowly integrate you back into the world. So you
Yes.
get a job, but you don't have freedom beyond the job.
Right.
Like you go to work and you come back, and,
Hmm.
and that's really it.
Right.
Um, and so it was nerve-wracking, honestly, at
Hmm.
first to go back into the world because it's a little scary after
And it's different
it's very
different than
different.
when you went in than when you're
Yes.
coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had never taken public transportation, but I'm from the shore. We don't really use it down there.
Right. Right.
And then I'm living in Camden and I got to get to my job in Cherry Hill.
Oh
So,
my God.
so I'm taking the bus and then I was taking the speed line, which I really loved the speed line.
Right.
And then I'd walk the rest of the way. But it was a growing period.
Oh.
Yeah. But the
Right.
day I got out, my brother and my sister-in-law actually flew home from California to pick me up.
Oh,
And then,
that's
yeah,
nice.
it was so nice. It was
Oh.
amazing. And we went and picked up my mom. We went out to eat. My brother got me a cell phone. It was like, yeah, it was amazing. It was very surreal though for a while. Like I
Yeah.
still was like, I'm out. Like this is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
But honestly, my whole bid in prison, I still was like, even till the end, I'm like, I'm incarcerated. Like, how did this
Right.
happen?
Exactly.
Like, it's like
Exactly.
you don't.
Yeah.
It was just the
You don't
strangest
think
feeling.
about
You
it.
don't
Yeah.
think that you'd ever end up in prison.
No.
It's not
Right.
really
No. Right.
something
No
you would
one.
imagine.
Exactly.
So it was strange. Like the whole bit, I was like, I'm really an incarcerated person.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Yeah.
out, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm a free person
And
again.
then you're like, wait a minute. One minute I'm in.
Yeah,
Next minute I'm here. So
yeah.
it's like one of those.
It's like, what is going on? Like, I felt like almost like I had whiplash. Like,
Yeah. You're like, 1 minute you're in, next
yeah,
minute you're out. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm sure now. Do you think that time flies in there, or no? It goes slow?
So I feel like at times it really drags,
Hmm.
but then when you look back on the time, it's like, oh wow, it kind of went fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
But while you're in the midst of your bid, it
Hmm.
feels like time is dragging.
Right.
And
Right.
then you're like, wow, over 7.5 years passed. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how did your mom feel? What was your mom feeling after you were out? Because I
Um,
know it's hard for parents. So.
yeah, it is. Well, so when I originally went in, my mom had been living in California. And so then she moved home a couple years after I went in so that she could be closer.
Mhm.
And then when I got out, I mean, she's just happy that I'm out, I think, and just
She's like,
um
that's done.
yeah, yeah. She's much more realistic than my dad is the guy who still is trying to blame somebody else for why I went in. I'm like,
I
Dad,
get it.
it's my
Yeah.
fault. I'm
Yeah.
an adult.
I get it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but my mom is very like, you made a mistake.
Hmm.
You did your time. Now you're out.
That's
Yeah.
that's nice. I mean,
Mhm.
it's because I think of, when my sibling was in there, and then came out, what that experience was like.
Yeah.
But you also hear a lot too that some people, and I don't know if this is, and I don't know if this is a real thing, but some people want to stay.
That is a real thing.
And I've even
Not for
seen,
me.
no, I know, but I've seen like clips of people that they're like, I just want to stay
Yeah.
because it was the I was comfortable there. I had
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was comfortable. Like I didn't have to worry about anything, and they had become so used to that life at that
Yeah.
point, where rehabilitation to them, being out again,
Yeah.
meant nothing. That they would sometimes commit
Yeah. That
crimes when
is
they're
true.
out
That
to
is
get back in again.
that is true.
And so I really wonder like the mindset behind that.
So it happens on that grand scale of out in the world and wanting to be back in. And it also happens on a smaller scale in prison. So if you're in prison, some people, the people that get in trouble a lot, they end up in lock, so segregation.
Mm.
They'll come out of lock back into general population, and they will want to get in trouble again to go back into lock. And lock is not fun back there, from what I've heard. I do not know personally, but so some, what is really sad, Christian, is that as far as the grand scale of freedom and then being in there, is that for some people it's the best they've ever had it.
Yep.
They don't have to worry about a roof over their
Yep.
head.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, they
Yep.
don't have to worry about meals.
Yep.
Like some people, it is the best, and that's so sad. And some people in there have no support. I am so blessed that I had family.
Yep.
And one certain friend who just stuck by me the entire time.
That's nice.
So, but some people don't have that.
Nope.
And
they don't.
so that world becomes their world.
Yep.
And their happy place.
That's
because
it.
that's
Yep.
all. That's the
That's
best
all
they ever had it. Yeah.
That's the best they ever had. You're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I've read about that
Yeah.
too. Because it's not like I went into like a deep dive of like what people think when they want to go back to,
Yeah.
but then I would assume that it was that.
Yeah.
Because it was just like maybe they didn't have that sort of support.
Yeah.
Their family has passed,
Mhm.
and maybe they don't have anyone, and prison's the only place that they know they can survive that, because they
Yeah.
can't survive in the streets. And so yeah, so I think about that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, like that, there's a whole psychology to it
Yeah.
that also puts them, in that perspective.
Yeah. And there's so much uncertainty living
Yes.
life out in the world.
Yes.
We're in there, how your day is going to go.
And I hate to use this term, but it's almost like you're in there and then you spend however many years it is, and the world, like the world is the same for you, but on the outside the world is changing.
Yes. So
And
much.
especially if you're so many years in,
Mhm.
technology's changing,
Yeah.
life is going, different things are happening out there, and you're in that same place
Yeah.
without experiencing any of that,
Yeah.
other than like maybe hearing about it,
Mhm.
but you're not experiencing it. So then when you finally get out, the world is different.
Yeah,
It's and then so then I'd say I think to myself, how do you navigate, how are you able to navigate a world coming out from that? So this is
Mhm.
where I feel like the way you were describing rehab